Every day we're faced with choices that enhance our life or hinder it. And the decisions we make oftentimes are the results of a damaged mind. So I want to speak to those women and the girls in their lives who are struggling to persevere. One day you will learn how to embrace a process that will position you to bring your deliverance under dominion and take your power back. But it's imperative that you learn how to recover from your afflictions efficiently first. As you become sensitive to a strength beyond your limitations, there's a freedom in yielding yourself to an accountability that allows you to be in control and in time become equipped with the skills and the courage to resist your enemy. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because it's difficult to fight through pain or trauma once despair has rendered its verdict and has convinced you that defeat is your only option. And today, unhappiness wears many hats and claims countless faces. And while some learn to function with it on a day-to-day basis, others simply fold under the pressure. So I want to briefly discuss what you're ultimately left with. A violation of depression. Depression is a topic steeped in controversy when it comes to its validity, its source, and its treatment as far as science and medicine and religion are concerned. But whatever notion it comes with for you, I want to speak to those in a dark place, still holding on to a hope beyond their strength, settling in things they don't quite know how to release. I want to remind you of an essence greater than your problems and promote your way of escape by helping you to better maneuver through time. Because once you're born, living is your truth no matter how life unfolds. And every day we work just to see a bigger picture, only constrained by what we understand about what that picture should look like. But women, listen. There are dimensions of fulfillment we have yet to tap into. So let's start by reestablishing our spiritual connection. And to do so, I'm driven to one of the most highly sought after, yet widely misused sources of today, the scriptures. People tend to mold the scripture to meet their needs or suit their issues, even when they're not faithful to the word itself. If we be honest, most of us don't apply the word to every aspect of our lives all of the time, because maybe we just don't know how to see it through. But that only recreates an idea of who the Father should be in our minds, ultimately hindering our prayer life as we learn to rely on a strong hope or a faith without works. The actual word for prayer in Hebrew is Palal. It's when you enter that secret place and you shut the door and you take on both a physical and mental state that affords you the right to interpose any given situation, or even judge yourself, or you meditate with the intent on coming before who He is in awe and humility. This is the reverence that allows you to come boldly before His throne. Yet we still look to figure things out on our own, and many times for the most superficial reasons because we're limited by our flesh. But our Father knows the plight of our inclinations, and He considered residual damage, so He set in motion a constant word that remains intact when we don't, as a testament of who He is and what He's able to do for us while we sojourn here. There are troubles in the earth, and sorrow is a natural human response that will manifest for us from time to time. And emotions will be like a survival mechanism, but they're also the fastest way we can forfeit our faith. So the Most High allots us a temporary seat for the state of our emotions to manifest as these changes come. Because for now, happiness is fleeting. But sadness is too depleting for a long-term survival. For everything He said that there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. That means that He already took into account all things. It's like living is rhythmic, and He wants us to modulate the cadence of our course with as much dignity and control as we can handle. If not, a destruction will at best compose a ripple effect that makes it difficult to recover from. And so the topic at hand, depression, an infringement of your peace, is defined by man as a severe despondency or dejection. Pretty much a lack of hope or a persistent state of lowliness. At any rate, it's a vulnerable emotional state that's able to endure over a prolonged period of time. And although its symptoms are similar to grief, they're not exactly the same according to His word, because you can grieve properly and not be consumed by it. In Scripture, when you become consumed by a state of depression, it's referred to as the spirit of heaviness. And I want to focus on the word spirit in this context because a spirit has a life force. That means it's functional, it's able to become weak or gain strength depending on what fuels it. But the thing is, when your spirit is weak, a stronghold has an obligation to seize that opportunity because demons know that time is of the essence. Think about what happens when distress or trauma arises. More often than not, we can only process it from the point of view of the actual experience, right? And then we react from a fight or flight mode and attempt to either avoid that experience or protect ourselves because we're not trained to recognize what gives strength to weakness while we're hurting. So many times our circumstances become a diversion that makes it difficult to connect with the Almighty when it's actually the time we need to submit to Him. And then we unknowingly allow opportunity, that same opportunity for a breakthrough, to escape us. Scripture says that when we are found empty or not filled with spiritual fruit, that impure spirits are conditioned to overwhelm you. And impure spirits don't care why you're empty. They just thrive in your emptiness. I don't know if we'll ever truly be prepared to deal with the pain that we're told we must eventually learn to come to grips with. And although it's a common space, it can also be the hardest place to relate to as it is so personal. But nonetheless, unresolved emotions or issues evolve through triggers. And when stored in your body, they affect your health. Then they impede your healing process. And that influences what you accept in life. And when all there is left to do is to recover and focus, you continue to fight with no true direction, fueled by pain in your most vulnerable state, and then the opportunity for torment becomes more accessible than the opportunity for peace. When it comes to an invasion of depression, the mind can no longer cope with the initial pain, so it thrives off of the feelings that fuels whatever justifies it, keeping us tied to our emotionalism. So we need to grasp the fact that the Most High is not bound to our emotions, because left to themselves, emotions flourish in a state of weakness and pride, and they're subjected to anger and offense, and they dictate how we live when they were only meant to be a measure of our reactions for a set period of time. But being that that is not usually the case, what our Father did was He provided a foundation of faith to encourage us to function through our stages of deliverance. And He's only bound to seeing us through those processes. So He warns us to be sober-minded and watchful, clear, sensible, attentive, and sound in judgment no matter what happens or how we feel, not only for character development, but for our protection. Because He says we all have an adversary pursuing us like prey, likened unto a roaring lion, looking for someone to lay waste or quickly consume. Numbing yourself, lashing out, disguising your pain, and ignoring your issues will not change what is required for you to overcome them. And no one can prevail for you, nor can you for anyone else. And I suppose that some things will never be fully understood until we reach the other side and truly see why. And then it probably won't even matter. But for now, learn what it means to take every thought into captivity by renewing your mind and commanding your days and your nights in the meditation of His Word, so that you are able to be receptive to a change that brings victory to a woman scorned. He said, I have told you these things, so that in me you might have peace, and in this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. And remember every day that no weapon formed against you has to prosper. Until next time, peace and koa to women everywhere.